State of NPDA. Sounds like we're declaring independence or something.
We're
I declared the state of NPDA. Hello, everybody.
We're seceding like everybody else.
We got Matt, the reasonable person, Esquire. Tim, causer of problems, from good old San Diego.
White, first world problems. Sorry, not white. Scratch the white part.
Thanks.
I am Jared Kubika Miller. I am your professor, debate coach. We are going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart. We're talking about the state of NPDA, also known as the National Parliamentary Debate Association. It was my organization. I owned it for a period of time.
He got first place?
Nah, I did not get first place.
But why are so? The real question tonight is, Jared, why are you ruining it?
Yeah, maybe it's your involvement with NPDA, which has caused it to tank so hard.
I think because I haven't coached it in years. It's my lack of involvement.
It's your absence that they miss.
Like, in fact, I noticed from discussions that the time in which it peaked was when I was there. That was the high water mark.
It was like high school for you.
Huh? Yeah.
No, all right.
Well, then you could throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
Look, I want to let's just pretend like someone's watching this, A, and B, that they have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. So NPDA stands for...
Well, I already said it. National
Parliamentary Debate
Parliamentary debate is the key words. National too.
A good friend of ours over at Concordia, Mr. Conrad Hack, is doing his PhD research into the subject of why NPDA participation is shrinking. And so he's accumulated a bunch of data of how many teams have participated each year since like 1997. But he published this graph of data from 2003 on. Point of information.
Point of information. You go ahead. We're eager to throw this graph up, everybody. Look at this. This is the Amazon stock. No, I'm just kidding. This is not Amazon stock. Teams competing at the NPDA Championship Tournament.
Got that just right.
Yeah, so apparently, according to this graph, schools across the country are less interested in Parley debate, which I started it in. I was under my most esteemed coach, Professor and Coach Jared Kubika Miller.
And what year was that? What year did you reckon?
Well, I was 37 at the time, and it was 2008. No, I'm just kidding. I think I was 21 at the time, and it was 2008. I just want to look. I need everyone to know.
It really had a steep drop off after that. You see that?
It really did.
Yeah. You should see 2023.
Yeah. It's like we should put that. We should mark that. It's like right here.
It was Matt.
Yeah. That was like.
Yeah. I was peak, bro. No, I'm just kidding. Look, long story short, I just want to make sure everyone understands what Parley means. I'm sure most of the people watching of the 7 million, apparently 7 million people are watching this right now. But and Parley means limited. It's limited prep. I mean, you go to a tournament, you'll have the same number of rounds as everyone else, but each round you get a different. Well, generally speaking, most rounds you get a different topic. You have 15 to 20 minutes to prep. It used to be with paper in your box, and now it's with your phones and computers. But It's a limited prep event, so it's unlike policy. It's unlike limited. It's unlike Lincoln Douglas, and it's a team event as well. So it's 2-on-2. There's no cross examination. There's only points of information, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's that switched up recently. So they have something called flex time, and they have a bit of time that each side can use for either asking questions
Sure.
or for a bit of prep time.
There you
And so,
go.
yeah, and so they,
I actually want to say that was what 2019-ish.
I think so.
I'm
So
gonna
this is some
correlate that with another
bastardized version.
drop-off. Once they got flex, these kids have gotten soft, and the activity dropped even harder.
I know, like that's like proof.
Oh, man.
So, anyways, Conrad posed this graph out to the community. He's like, this is not my formal data collection, but because I know a lot of people that care about this organization and have been a part of it for a long time, or were or are at one point, throw that out there. Why do you think this is? And just let me get some ideas from the crowd.
Hey,
And
before we listen to Jared, who's
no,
smart.
we're listening to Tim though.
No, he posed a question. I want
They seem to fall into a few different camps, and that's what we wanted to discuss tonight. Of like, what are our thoughts on why the graph goes this direction? How has NPDA changed? How has the community changed? Why is it the case that there seems to be such a significant drop off? Just our own postulations on it, because that's what everyone seems to be talking about. And is there a way to fix it? Is there something? Do we want to fix it? Is that a bad thing that we're losing it? But
point of order.
Point of information. But yeah.
Point of information. Okay, I have 2 cents. All right.
Oh, thank God.
Before we listen to the esteemed
We have
Jared,
2 viewers, and if you're viewing this right now, you should post up any sort of thoughts that.
Yeah, what's your ideas?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
maybe
go for it.
Why is
I'll-
NPDA in decline?
Yeah. Go for it, man.
2 reasons I have for why it may be in decline. 1, people are terrified of being put on the spot. Hold on, listen to me.
I will not listen to you anymore. Go ahead.
Thank you.
can speak, I'm just not
So
listening.
all I'm saying is this: of all the events, Parley is a little nerve-wracking because you have, every round within a tournament, every practice round with your team, you are put, for all intents and purposes, on the spot. Like, you are literally put in a place where you may have no idea of any information regarding the resolution. And I do, in my experience with Public Forum and all the other forums of Lincoln Douglas, other forms of debate, policy included, there is a little bit of what's the word? Safety in knowing the resolution for an extended period of time and having that ability to research and develop a case with all the time in the world. So I think that's part of it. 2, second reason, I think there's a little bit of a stigma with Parley, shaming it, saying that's not real because whoever is required to debate something in 15 minutes.
What are some of the other camps, Tim, that you saw in these posts?
So they fell into 3 main buckets, and those were primarily budget cuts, because what that meant, that graph is number of schools participating. So, or excuse me, number of teams. Excuse me, number of teams participating. So in 2004, there were 300 plus teams that went to NPDA.
That's 600 students. Yeah. Go ahead.
Way more.
600 plane tickets, 600 hotel stays. 600
how many
sandwiches.
fingers is that?
Right.
Assuming that everyone has roughly on average 10. How many fingers is that, Matt?
Multiply it by 10.
Well, honestly, we can never know.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, to continue that point, the teams, there's fewer than 60 teams that are entered. So the cause for this decline is what people are looking at. And the first answer that everyone seemed to have was budget cuts. There are fewer teams out there. There are fewer schools that actually have Parley programs. And this is Parley specifically. This is not participation in all debate. And so another important kind of historical point they were making was that at the time of Parley's heyday, it was created as an answer to CETA. It was to NDT, to like policy. Policy was the prevailing collegiate debate, and Parley was brought up as like, hey, rather than activity that you have
meaning
a
you have
year
one
long to prep
resolution
this
all
topic,
year.
and you can get super deep into it.
Right.
If we create limited prep time, there's no way that anyone can be super technical and highly knowledgeable about the topic, and therefore it will become a more common lay type of debate. That was the original idea behind bringing out Parley.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is there anybody that's saying that maybe BP is taking those programs? Because like we used to debate against UCLA and Laverne, and they went to British parliamentary debate and never looked back.
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone did you see anything about that?
I didn't see a lot of people that said that there's been an exodus to a different camp, or at least to BP. There were some people that said like, okay, well, if you look at the graph of IPDA in the last couple of years, that's like shot through the roof.
One-on-one
because
limited
it's the
prep.
same response, right? It is intended, or at least what is it, probably 5 years ago that IPDA kind of hit the scene, in earnest, at least on the West Coast. The intent was this is non-Parley debate. So it's still limited prep, but this is the lay version. Like it seems like every, decade or so,
you bring up a good point.
A new type of debate that's supposed to be the lay type of debate.
You're
Aaron.
right. Parley does encourage jargon. There's no sort of you're supposed to know everything about debate in Parley. You're just not supposed to have any time to prep for your case in Parley. So go ahead, Aaron. Go ahead.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, we know it's expensive. Like one of the things that we've been doing at Proto Communications is building a forensics course that actually has a lot of the different events that are available, and now we're incorporating AI tools into it. We think it takes the place. It can do the work of assistant coaches, and
right.
So it would be
what effect does ChatGPT have on Parley debate? You can just type in the resolution
and
say,
that
give me an
just came out
affirmative.
this month, though. That's not this month, but this year, right? So that graph doesn't include that. Hey, thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
If you want to find out the potential for cost savings on
let's just stay with Aaron for a second. So let's say the Nats tournament, the NPDA is like a actual tournament, which is of parliamentary debate, which there's a million tournaments all over the country where there's a few where you can qualify. Long story short, what am I saying? How much does it cost to send, let's just say, 3 teams to nationals, NPDA, in Parley? So that's going to be 6 students, and let's just say that you don't live within driving range of Muncie, Indiana, wherever the heck the tournament is that year. How much is a plane ticket for each student? How much is a hotel stay for at least the tournament? But realistically, you're probably gonna go a couple days early, get acquainted. Not to mention, up to even get to the tournament, you might have to go to a 10K. I don't even know what 10K means, but it probably means
answering your question. How much does it cost
per student? 10K.
Aaron was talking about an entire forensics program.
For 6 students to go to an NPDA tournament would be 10K.
Smallest.
That's lean. I mean, that's probably lean. I mean,
I think the 4 students that SDSU is sending, I think I may be wrong on this, but I want to say that it's about $4,000. We're sending 4 students, but we also have to send multiple coaches. One, because you got to have coaches to prep, and also need judges.
Right, and Aaron, I hear you. By the way, I agree. I think you can squeeze it, right? But that's also kind of where a team who had in my mind, I go back to 2008 OCC, for instance. It seemed they had all the money in the world, okay, and they could send as many teams as they want. So, a team who has a giant budget has an easier time, but maybe a team that has a budget cut every year for the last 5 years.
I think what we're missing in this conversation, though, is that those budgetary constraints affects all events.
Totally.
Like NPDA, that doesn't explain why IPDA has seen an increase in participation, right? And
Right,
so,
or like AFA and NFA, like individual event national tournaments. I haven't seen comparable graphs, but I would imagine the participation is still really, really high.
yeah.
So,
Well, I don't know if the overall participation is high. I'm really curious about that because I know it took a major hit during the pandemic. I heard a
for sure.
lot of stories, and this is just
Aaron, you're
anecdotal.
killing it. You just keep
Thanks.
posting, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah. No.
How much per Slim Jim for lunch? You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought. That's
I
what I'm
love the
thinking.
interaction. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Seriously, contact me, Aaron. Like I got some
I
ideas.
love
Maybe.
tangents.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
But for NPDA in particular as an event, I think it's like for instance, what I've heard is like Duo, the interpretation event has seen like a massive hit because
For sure.
The sort of working in the same room was critical to making those things, and people just kind of gave up on it.
And I think the decline started during the pandemic. I remember hearing,
but this decline was started well before the pandemic.
Right.
So you know what I mean? There's like it's got to be something else. I noticed that when we were doing it was right when the sort of rapid fire delivery started winning. Right, we were really prepared for it. Like, I wouldn't say that I was fast, but I was fast enough to cover what the critical things that they were saying,
right,
and still say that I wasn't fast. You know what I mean? It's like, but I needed a level of speed.
and you're saying speed, like we're talking about in policy, right? If anyone here hasn't heard a policy round, we're talking about in round vocalization of words at a minute speed. And I remember even in
policy is still a thing. So now there's like, what is it? It's like, is it the one topic all year long? And why is IPDA?
It's harder to speed through a round that you had 15 minutes to prep for than you'd had all year to prep for. I mean, when the expectation in Parley is you're supposed to speak and talk like at a policy round, and you're supposed to be full of jargon and deep knowledge of a topic, that's kind of what I was trying to get to earlier, where like it's really a difficult genre or the word of debate, because there is no excuse to not know jargon. There's really not an excuse not to have an in-depth argument, but like you can kind of skirt through it if both teams don't have in-depth arguments. But there's no part of Parley that says you can't bring anything to bear that you have. Whereas, by the way, what I'm trying to say is in IPDA, where it's just one-on-one, it's jargon is typically discouraged, right? Like they want to kind of make it more human tone, tempo, and argumentation.
So one thing about IPDA is that I think the judging pool, they make it really clear that like they're going to be. So I think I got a theory, and I have I have a pretty good amount of experience, to base the theory on, but nothing much else beyond that. Where it's the judging,
right?
That there's becoming.
Hell yeah, Aaron.
Yeah.
By the way, I did all those and impromptu. Throw that in there while you're in there.
Yeah, impromptu is a good one.
I love it. No, I was in this.
But what I like, and so maybe what happened was that Parley was supposed to be like there was a certain goal that it was set. It was supposed to be the alternative to policy, and maybe it just failed at that. Because the rate of speech started going up. You have a whole lot more critical debates, and what I mean by that is that people running the same critique on the AF and neg. You know what I mean?
Right. And Jared, I don't mean to cut you off, but like Parley,
you're going to do it again. So
totally
it's a valid one that the judges, and this was the second topic area that really a lot of people all shared, and they were that the people that won previously in policy and then moved their way over to Parley start judging with a policy mindset, and those students that keep winning are being more policy-esque. So Parley has become significantly more policy. So Parley has always been hard. People have always been on the spot. It's always been a new topic. It's always been difficult, even when it was at its height. But the difference is it has become significantly more like policy because there are more people winning that are on the policy side.
And that becomes
a cycle, right?
They don't discourage well, it's not affirmatively discouraged to debate like a policy debater in Parley, right?
I would say it's actively encouraged, right?
No, like for instance, my example would be public forum. Like public forum in my mind is kind of a hey, don't go fast, don't get stuck in essentially ancient debate argumentation format structures. Like public forum in my mind has expressly stated that there's going to be lay judges and you should be able to win with a lay judge. Whereas in Parley, it's kind of the opposite of policy, meaning like they want you to be limited prep. But from what I understand and remember about Parley, like no, they don't discourage speed and they don't discourage jargon, debate, theory, argument. Like they welcome all of the policy stuff, except you have 15 minutes to prep. So again, like if you did just end up having if you prepped a whole Lincoln Douglas case for 2 years or a year, and just so happens that your Parley round is about that type of resolution, you can bring all of that to bear.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to get at this is that like policy's bad. It's that
I'm not saying policy's bad.
No, but
Ass.
I want to make sure that it's just that policy already does policy really well.
I
And
agree.
the whole point,
Right.
the whole point of NPDA was to be an alternative, and once that ethos is lost, once that telos is lost, once that sort of intention is lost, then it's kind of like, why don't I just do policy, or I could do BP? Like, what's the point? Like,
Or public forum. I mean, I hate to
we
say
have
it.
these alternatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the increased jargon rate and complexity, and then also it almost becomes similar to policy, just becomes a little bit more and more, I don't want to say esoteric, but there are fewer and fewer people that can even understand it. It gets so difficult. The bar to entry is so hard that teams need really, really good quality coaches and need super dedicated students to even be able to hang in a round.
Right.
And that pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
The truth.
Where the people that won previous years then go on to coach. And so they're similarly like moving the measuring stick of how the event is judged further and further into a even more technical, even more critical, type of activity. So that was kind of the second thought, was just how it's, strayed in style. But the third camp was the community element of it. And COVID was certainly a piece of it, but this decline has happened over time. And it was that prep rooms are more isolated and people just spend time in their own prep room and don't go out and hang out with other people. And so it was that in the early 2000s, people were more, this was not as popular of an answer, but I thought it was an interesting one.
Early 2000s sounds so horrible.
Interacted a whole lot more, and they became a little bit more insular as time went on.
Yeah.
So budget cuts, technicality, community were the three popular answers that I saw.
One of the thoughts I was having when we were talking about like the how the judges are, it's like you got to think about it in the debate world. For logistical reasons, we have it where there's only one judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have a larger
for prelim
audience,
rounds, but yeah.
But for if in a larger audience, it changes, and this kind of reminds me of
like when Jared lost, the whole room told him he lost, whereas unlike a prelim round.
Yeah. So there's a different, like Marshall McLuhan said that like the medium is the message, right? And in this one, like the medium is the audience, and so like the ability for these two sides to interact with the audience matters. And so if the audience is former policy coaches, then the audience is the one who's determining way more than the debaters, like the direction and the trajectory of the event itself. They're the ones who like hand out rewards for what they are. And so up until the early 2000s, all those coaches were defectors, right? They were people who were trying to do an alternative. Whereas once that threshold passed, all the people that were doing most of the coaching, not the DOFs, not the tenured faculty, but the assistant coaches that were like just won nationals and something like that, they were pushing it more and more towards like policy, like poo-pooing the fact and value rounds. And,
right. Yeah, that's another good example.
Yeah,
just how that's changed. Like resolutions at national levels are all very technical policy only, right? Like
Yeah.
we say that it's not policy, and yet every resolution is a policy, and they hate fact and value rounds. So like I would say like the death of trichotomy is maybe another sign that it is just kind of
That's our band name, by the way.
That's a great band name. Oh
That
my
is a sick
god!
name.
Look, I came in a little later,
Oh.
right? 2008 is when I went to Phi Pi. I won 3rd place with many others in parliamentary debate. All right. So all I'm saying is this. I think Parley has a very unique, at least my understanding of the most modern, perspective of what Parley is. Parley does not discourage debate jargon. Let's just start with that, right? Like you are supposed to run policy style debates with advantages, plans, disadvantages, alternative counterplay. Like none of those words are off limits in Parley. So what we're saying is a policy style debater who's familiar with those types of formatting of arguments, that's all good in Parley. That's not discouraged. Whereas as also a public forum debater, that is discouraged. Like they don't want a public forum coach or judge, I should say, who's not totally lay and understands.
Matt, answer me this. How do they enforce that? You say it's discouraged.
It's in the judging. I mean, the judging. I have had. Well, I'm speaking anecdotally, but yeah. I'm just telling you that I have never heard a Parley judge tell me too debate jargon, too much debate jargon, too much format, too much. I've had Parley debates go both ways, by the way, on speed, for instance. Like you're right. Thank you, Aaron. That's my point. Like a good team in Parley who uses a bunch of jargon and goes at 100 words a minute can win. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you go to Parley, public forum, they'll drop you just for speed. Yeah. Right. So when you use the words alternative to policy, right? So the irony is, I think after the 20, 30 years since the early 2000s, they've come up, when I say they, there are formats of debate which directly conflict with the tenets of policy debate. I don't think Parley does. I think Parley, the only thing that directly conflicts is the amount of time you have to prep, which is very nerve-wracking to the coach and to the students, okay, or the competitors. Where and I have a feeling deep down that it's challenging, because what you're asking is for a policy style debater with all the understanding of formatting to prep speed style rounds with full information in 15 minutes. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's
I
a lot.
I don't think it's necessarily in the design of the event itself.
It's come to be this. I mean,
I really think that it is mainly in the audience who judges it. It's like in the judging pool. I'm not saying anything bad about judges.
We're not talking nothing.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
But
Tim hates judges. Tim,
but
Tim should be in jail.
This is what happens when you have a voluntary system for an activity like this, where you expect assistant coaches and judges to do to volunteer their time. It's what you get are graduate students or soon to be graduate students that are willing to just kind of do this, and
who may have never competed before, by the way.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking about
opposite. They just did a whole bunch of competition and saw hey, policy activities win rounds, therefore they enforce that in their own judging of hey, you sounded really pretty, but you dropped this particular link turn, therefore you lose. That is actively encouraging more technical debate. So the more technical debaters that then become the next coaches train the next even more technical generation of debaters. So I think it goes that direction. And I think IPDA is kind of the answer to that right now. IPDA is maybe right now where Parley was in the late 90s when they were coming up with it. Just
when Jared was 48.
Hey, we're the non-policy debate opportunity. But
Yeah.
I would bet because you can't have explicit rules against speed and against technicality.
There are none. Yeah,
IPDA
right.
will be where Parley is now in 20 years if it's still a thing.
I think that if
Genuinely,
like IPDA said it's like, okay, we're going to be having like non-debate background judges judge you.
Like public
think,
forum,
like,
by the way, just to
thing.
say that
Like
out
right
loud.
now, like
Lay
it's become
judges.
insular.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like only debate judges.
Right.
It's like, well, like CETA has that. You could go to a BP tournament for that. And you could. There's alternatives for that already. You know, what I mean, what are you bringing that's different? I think that's the problem. It's like it's kind of lost its identity.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, thank you. Excellent.
Aaron, we miss you. All right, I'm going to tell you this. You should be on the next podcast. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I can't help but think like CETA is the policy tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, like again, I can't help but feel like if Jared, you brought up this term, you said it's the alternative to CETA. It's the alternative to policy. I can't help but think that Parley is the middle ground between CETA and public forum.
Why do you need the middle ground? Like,
well, no. I'm telling you because I've already said it 5 times. I'll say it again because you're not listening to me because you don't listen to me. But jargon, speed, those are not definitively wrong in Parley. They're not. They're just not. I mean, they're not. You're allowed to run structured debate jargony plans, and you're allowed to run them at 100 words a minute if you can spit them out in Parley, right. And you can win.
But you only win because the tournament director like.
No, I don't believe you. No, you're going full QAnon
for a second. So the tournament director carves out these judges are only going to judge Parley, and then everyone else is going to be judging individual events, right?
But there's also like in public forum, they straight up say there will be lay judges. That's not how it is.
I know that's why you don't need Parley. If you're going to carve out these extra judges that only do Parley, it's kind of like as a tournament director, you're like, screw that. That. I need judges that are going, doing that. So I think
one or the other, right?
It's it's like you got CETA that has all the CETA judges and they
the most cerebral fucking friggin'.
And so like this is a forensic. If you want to be in like a full service forensics program, you have to have a debate event that meets those needs. And Parley just stopped meeting those needs.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
Okay, and I like Parley. And by the way, whatever you take from this, we're about to end right now, but I love Parley. I think people should join Parley. And the decline in Parley membership to the NPDA tournament makes me very sad because I do believe that the skills that you craft in Parley are hyper focused on kind of performance, but also with the knowledge. Like Parley is like extemp. You kind of have to know everything going into the tournament, and that way you don't get caught with your pants down when something comes onto a resolution. But you also might be caught with a defense wins championships resolution. So it's one of those kind of middle grounds. But it does allow for jargon. It allows for speed. It allows for good argumentation in debate as we think about it as high-level debaters, whereas it's discouraged in other kind of more forcibly lay events, like I'd say IPDA and public forum. So go Parley and get back in there. Coaches, allocate money for your Parley teams. Go get a couple Parley teams going on.
Yeah. Hey, if anyone wants to like pick my brain for like cost-saving ways to have forensics teams, you can contact
or how to
me.
get second place at NPDA. You call Jared, all right? That's how it goes, okay?
It's just jared@protocommunications.com. All right, let me know.
That's our time.
Yeah, that's our time, everybody. So catch us next week, Matt, Tim, and Jared. We'll get you next time. All right, latest.